Hi everyone! So, I've got some pretty cool news. I got a borrowed copy of Dinesh D'Souza's new book, The Big Lie. I am super excited to read it. I haven't started it yet, but I plan on doing that tonight. Dinesh D'Souza is a guy who, I admit, he did something wrong, but he paid his debts to society, and he did not betray his country to WikiLeaks. So, long and short of it is, I'm very excited to get into The Big Lie. His last couple of books have been amazing. His documentary, Hillary's America, which I admit maybe was a little mistitled, but again, fantastic documentary. It's all about the history of the Democrat Party, their connection to Margaret Sanger, who founded the Eugenics Society with the specific goal of eradicating what she called the Negro race. And later, she founded Planned Parenthood. So, anyway, without further ado, I've got all kinds of stuff. I've got comic book reviews, and I've got a Future Fight update. So, welcome to today's episode of Studio Jake. Alright, so starting out, I haven't done one of these in a while, but I wanted to do a book mention, Haven of Swans by Colleen Coble. This is a really great suspenseful novel. It's part of her Rock Harbor series. Now, this book was actually originally published in 2007 under the title Obsession, but she has since re-released it, relaunched it, and updated it as Haven of Swans. Now, I haven't read Obsession, the first edition, so I don't know what the difference it is. And if I have any of her fans, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you thought was great. But this is a really great story. So basically what happens is this woman, she's being chased by a serial killer, and named Gideon, and he actually succeeds in attacks her and bangs her head against something, and it causes her to have amnesia, and she wakes up from the amnesia with a little girl, and she ends up in Rock Harbor. So the serial killer, Gideon, he's a missionary killer, which means he kills with a cause, and he's after her, and her ex-husband is a police detective, and he thinks she's dead because they found a body that resembled her, and even a guy who does facial reconstruction from skulls, he put it together and it resembled his wife. So he's freaking out. He's trying to find her. He doesn't know she's just a few hours away, safe and sound, but just with amnesia. So, or not safe and sound, a serial killer's after her. But this, I found it very suspenseful. It's got everything you could want in a good thriller. I actually enjoyed it much better. I previously reviewed another one of her novels. I can't remember the title. The title escapes me at the moment, but I reviewed one of her other novels, and it was good, but I thought this one was better. So, Haven of Swans, Colleen Coble, definitely get your copy. I think, especially if you enjoy thrillers, I think you will enjoy it. Alright, so now we're moving on. They have a new Future Fight update, which I just ruined. But they brought us new characters, which I know it's kind of hard to see in the reflection there, but it's Quicksilver, and then they also introduced Cable and the Scarlet Witch, and that's who I wanted on. Now, one thing too about this new update is they also gave us new costumes. Oh, there's Cable right there. There you go. Sorry, you have to hold it kind of at a slant. But there's Cable. They introduced Cable, and also they introduced the Age of Apocalypse costumes for Wolverine, for Beast, and for Cyclops. Now, every time I start to get bored with Future Fight, they do something interesting like this. So they had this challenge you could do for a while that's called World Boss, and before it was only Thanos and the Black Order, but now they've actually added Quicksilver. But here's the thing, you have to earn trophies to unlock Quicksilver. And then you can unlock Cable. And then you can unlock Scarlet Witch. And Apocalypse is still being worked on. But this is a little aggravating to me because I'm kind of like, I want to play these characters now, but they're making you jump through all these millions of hoops. And I'm starting to get tired of it. So before it was kind of neat. It's like, oh, you have to, there's Age of Apocalypse Cyclops. So before they were kind of like, oh yeah, you have to do this to get Carnage. And I'm not a huge Carnage fan, so it didn't really bother me. And then they said Hyperion. Again, not a huge Hyperion fan, so I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's a little cheeky. And then they added Dormammu, and which I kind of get Dormammu because he's such a powerful character, and in the comic books. But come on, Future Fight. Enough of the locked characters. Either give us new characters or don't, or just give us new levels, at least where we have a better chance of getting their biometrics. Having us jump through hoops, at least from my perspective, if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. But from my perspective, I'm kind of tired of jumping through all these hoops to get the characters that I want. I just want to be able to play levels and unlock them. I don't want to have to go through all this, oh, you have to do these 10,000 hoops, and then you unlock Quicksilver, and then you get to unlock Cable, and then you get to unlock Scarlet Witch. I still haven't been able to get Agent Venom, Carnage, or the Enchantress. And it's kind of like, come on, Future Fight. Really? You're going to keep all of these characters jammed up even after you have all this other stuff? So, I mean, I got Gwenpool. I didn't want Gwenpool, but I got her because she was part of an event. If you're going to make us jump through these hoops, at least give us opportunities where we can at least start to gather the biometrics, because it's getting kind of old. And again, now that Scarlet Spider has his comic book series back, introduce the Scarlet Spider so Spidey can have a blaster. All his characters are speed. So Miles Morales is speed, Spider-Gwen is speed, Silk is speed. Give us a blaster. You gave us muscle with the Doc Ock alternate. They gave Doc Ock the alternate costume where he's the muscle. And I guess that's okay. But really, maybe you should introduce some other character, perhaps Spider-Man Noir, and make him muscle, and then introduce Scarlet Spider and make him blaster. But again, enough with the jumping through hoops. Come on, it's time to unlock some of these characters. Alright, so moving right along, we have All-Star Batman issue number 13 by Scott Snyder. Now, I am a little sad because this is the penultimate issue. It's gone. This was my favorite Batman series, but Scott Snyder, of course, he's going on to make Dark Knight's Metals, which is an amazing series. I've read the first issue and all the prequels to it. It's going to be fantastic. So anyway, on to All-Star Batman. Look at this cover art. This is an amazing cover. I think it's phenomenal. I mean, this guy, man, I really hope I'm pronouncing his name right, but Alfred Albuquerque, I think is his name. He is a fantastic artist, and normally I'm not a huge fan of the artists they get for the series. I like the writing more, and the writing is pretty amazing. But this issue was a big improvement. It was a huge improvement. Who knows? Maybe I had something to do with that. But anyway, All-Star Batman number 13. I really appreciated the direction they're taking this. Now, one thing that's really neat about this is you're getting a background of where Alfred got his training. So as you know, in kind of modern comic books, before Alfred was an actor, his father, whose name was Jarvis, believe it or not, his father Jarvis was Thomas and Martha Wayne's original butler. And when he passed away, he died of a disease, and Thomas Wayne was his presiding physician. And when he passed away, Alfred came and took over his father's job. Now, in original comic books continuity, he wasn't there to raise Bruce. He actually showed up long after Bruce Wayne had actually adopted Dick Grayson. I know it's kind of bizarre to think that way. And he mostly just kind of helped Batman and Robin. But then later, with the 60s, this is actually one thing good to come out of the 60s Batman. I know that era is when it was kind of camping, periodic. Alfred now develops the more modern, where he was a member of MI5, and it shows this background where Alfred got his training. It kind of tells Alfred's tragic story, and Bruce, in this story, he's connecting to Alfred more in this way. And Batman actually gets to save Alfred. Don't worry, this is not a spoiler. This is very early on in the issue, but it's really an exciting issue. I think it's going to go out with a bang, and I think I'm so sad Scott Snyder is leaving Batman. Now, no disrespect to Tom King. Tom King is doing amazing things, but I just love the way how Scott Snyder brings the Dark Knight to life. And this issue, fantastic. Go pick it up. If you're in the LA area, pick it up from Earth 2 Comics on Ventura Boulevard in Sherman Oaks. All right, so Batman issue 30, and I mentioned that I've been mentioning the War of Jokes and Riddles. This is one of my favorite Batman storylines. Tom King deserves a raise for this storyline. This is incredible, and I am so excited to see what he's doing with the comic books. Batman and this artwork is just amazing. So that's the Tweedles, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and Kite Man. Kite Man, for some reason, is kind of a main character in this. They're bringing him back. He was one of those cheesy villains that came from the 60s, but they reinvented him, gave him a little bit tragic backstory. But anyway, Seth Man and Clayman, that's his name, they're the artists behind this. They are excellent artists. I just love what they do with it. This story is incredible. It's so I don't want to give too much away if you're not following it, but this one they introduced Mr. Freeze. He's involved with the War of Jokes and Riddles now. It ends up that Batman is actually forced to pick sides in this battle. Before he was staying neutral and just letting kind of the Joker and the Riddler battle it out. And then Bruce Wayne, not Batman, but Bruce Wayne as Bruce Wayne, had the Joker and the Riddler over to his house for dinner and tried to have them hash it out a little bit and decided who would win this war, But that hasn't worked out so well. So it's ending up that Batman is going to pick sides in this. I'm not going to tell you whose side he's going to pick, but you need to pick up a copy of Batman number 30. And if you're not following the War of Jokes and Riddles, they're calling this an interlude. I honestly don't know why it's still a continuation. I think it's because Batman's actually flashing back. He's actually telling the story to Catwoman. This is supposed to be like an early days. I think it's going to be a replacement for Year 2, basically. Batman Year 2, for a while, very briefly, it was canon. It was supposed to be a sequel to Batman Year 1, but it wasn't really that popular. It didn't catch well with the fans, so they said, oh, no, it's an Elseworld. It's not considered canon. And then they did the Long Halloween, Haunted Night, and Dark Victory, which Long Halloween was way better than Batman Year 2. But I think that's no longer canon now. That's considered post-Crisis, but pre-New 52. So I honestly think that, and of course, Zero Year replaced Year 1 as the first Batman adventure. So I think that the War of Jokes and Riddles, it's supposed to be kind of like a Batman Year 2 event. And like I said, he's telling it. And you can see he has kind of an early costume as opposed to the Rebirth costume with the gold around the bat emblem. And this is more, it kind of looks more like a Chuck Dixon era costume, which Chuck Dixon's one of my favorite Batman writers, so that's definitely not a knock. But anyway, definitely pick up Batman number 30, The War of Jokes and Riddles interlude. Okay, so moving along, we have Trinity issue 12. I really enjoy this this one. It's called Dark Destiny. And as you can see, the rise of the Mystic Trinity, which is Zatanna, Constantine, and Deadman. Now they did a what's it called? A variant cover for this, and I wasn't impressed with the variant. I like this cover art. It's really cool. Now, basically, what happens is this continues the story from a couple issues back, where Lex Luthor, Ra's al Ghul, and Cersei, I believe, they find a mystic pool, and Lex Luthor apparently abandons this pool. They you find out in this one that it is none other than the Pandora's box, which in the DC universe is a very powerful portal which unleashes all kinds of evil. But they needed to be a trinity to combat Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in order to fight it. So in this case, they kind of make it where it's kind of like just a coincidence that it happens to be Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Cersei wants to unite Ra's al Ghul, Lex Luthor, and whatnot, because they just want to do away with, you know, everyone's favorite superhero threesome. But it turns out that Lex Luthor's not interested because, of course, he's a man of science. He only believes in science. So he kind of dumps Ra's al Ghul and Cersei, and they decide to get another Trinity and to replace them so they can have the power to defeat Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And lo and behold, they choose Red Hood and the Outlaws, which in this case is Artemis and Bizarro, and Red Hood, of course. So, yeah, he long abandoned Arsenal and Starfire. So, they're meant to be an anti-Trinity. Now, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, being the smart folks that they are, they decide to partner with Constantine, Zatanna, and the Deadman. The three of them Batman especially wants to unpossess Jason Todd because he believes that he's just doing this, that he's doing this against his will. But then Jason Todd, actually, it turns out, is very excited to kill the Batman. So he's possessed by the Pandora's box, as is Bizarro and Artemis. Gives him freaky fangs and weird eyes, and Zatanna, Constantine, and Deadman actually go inside the Pandora's box, which is being funneled through Red Hood. So there's like this Bizarro scene where Superman, he stretches Red Hood's possessed mouth, and Constantine and the others climb in to try to fight the power inside. So I'm not a huge fan of when DC goes all mystic. I know there's a ton of people who are, but I'm more of like the sci-fi stuff, and sometimes I like fantasy, but I'm more into science fiction. But I like Dead Space a little bit better, but I think this will still be a good series. I mean, the artwork is amazing. The artist, his name is Vikin Marion, and it's written by Rob Williams. So I want to give the two of them a shout outs. I really think the series is going to be great. I think it has a lot of great potential. I can't wait to see how they develop it. Okay, before I end this episode, I just want to bring my attention to something. Last episode, I talked about how Sean Gordon Murphy, who's a talented artist, talented writer, I'm not taking away from that, but he's doing this Batman White Knight. And from what he said in Wired Magazine, I'm just using his own words against him, heaven forbid, it seems like he's going to turn Batman into some sort of fascist symbol. He's going to make Gotham City realistic. So the Joker is somehow going to get his sanity back, and he's going to start a political crusade against Batman. Now, there have been politicians who have done this, but they're going to actually make it where Batman is the problem. His vigilantism is causing a cycle of violence, and I really think, hence the title, Batman White Knight, he's saying that Batman is this white privileged guy who's going around beating up the mentally ill to do this. Now, I really see this as a problem in comic books. Marvel comic books tried this. They tried the intersectionality thing, and no one wants that. Now, Marvel, of course, turns around and blames the consumer. Oh, they don't want diversity. They don't want to see people of color and women in comic books. That's something that one of the execs at Marvel actually said. No, we don't care that Falcon is black. We don't care that Black Panther is black. We don't care that Captain America passed his shield to Falcon because Falcon was one of his apprentices. That's like Dick Grayson becoming Batman for a time. That's not what bothers us. It's when you're shoving characters like Shuri and to become Ironheart and replacing Iron Man. That's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. Miles Morales as Spider-Man? He's only 13 years old, and I get it. Spider-Man was around 16 when he started wearing the webs. I get it. But he doesn't need to replace Peter Parker. To me, that's more offensive. When you put a character that's supposed to be a minority figure, so he's supposed to be African American and Mexican, and then you say, oh, well, this character, he's not good enough for his own private character, so we're going to just replace him. That's offensive. You're saying that African American and Hispanic characters can't hold their own weight? That's racist. Forgive me for saying this. I'm sorry, not sorry, but someone has to point out the truth. And Batman being a fascistic representation of so-called white privilege, which has been debunked numerous occasions, same with the gender wage gap, and they're going to insert this in comic books. Just Action Comics, or it might have been Superman, I can't remember, but they had Superman saving a group of immigrants from a guy wearing a USA or a flag bandana, and he's opening fire on them with a machine gun. Where has this happened? Why does it warrant a section of a panel in a Superman comic book? DC, do not make the same mistake Marvel did. It's only going to hurt you. Right now, DC, you are the king of comic books because Marvel overplayed their hand. And you giving writers and talented writers like Sean Gordon Murphy, he's also a talented artist. I loved Batman Scarecrow Year One. To me, it will always be the origin for Scarecrow, hands down. But don't fall into this intersectionality trap. If you want to do diversities, if you want to put your ideas in writing, that's fine, but make it good. Don't make it so obvious. I mean, that you're pandering. I had actually gotten into a Twitter discussion with Sean Gordon Murphy about this, and I said, I don't mind you putting your ideas in comic books, but it's the pandering to the social justice warriors who, by the way, don't have any money to buy comic books. That's why they're videotaping themselves crying on YouTube. They're still living in their parents' basements. Social justice warriors are not your audience. Guys like me are. And you know what? It doesn't matter if I'm white. It doesn't matter if I'm Asian. It doesn't matter if I'm African American. You should not go for the lowest common denominator when it comes to these special snowflakes. Race should not play a factor in this. You should want to entertain. And if you want to teach a lesson, like I'm not opposed to you allowing your writers to put liberal ideas. It's the hardcore special snowflakery that I have a problem with. And Marvel, they gambled on that and they lost. DC, do not make the same mistake. Now, if you wanted to show Superman saving undocumented immigrants, that's fine. But just remember, it's the drug cartels killing them, not white Americans. It's the drug cartels who are raping those women and throwing their panties up in trees. It's not white Americans. And if you wanted to make and I think that is a more important issue. Are you going to do a story about the illegal immigrants who have raped and murdered women and sons of American citizens? No, of course you're not going to do that. I dare you to. And if you do, I'll come out and I will apologize. But don't use your comic books to preach to us. We don't want that. We just want you to entertain us. And like I said, if you want to put your ideas in your comic books, go for it, but do it in a classy and an interesting and entertaining way. That's what grips the readers. And I know some who are on the right, like I am, are going, Jake, don't give them advice on how to spread their liberal ideology. I don't care if a writer is left, right, center, libertarian. That doesn't matter to me. I just want their content to be good. You should read art, or you should look at art. You should read books by people who are different than you. There's nothing wrong with that. You just need to get an understanding. I'm so tired of people who have such a narrow-minded approach to art. Some people say my idea of art is way too broad. I have arguments about people whether comic books are art. I do think comic books are art. I think they're art and they're literature combined, and that makes a lot of creators jealous. Now, I'm a writer. I have a novel release. I have another one on the way, hopefully, fingers crossed. And I just don't want to see characters that I love, like Batman and Spider-Man and Black Panther and Falcon and Luke Cage. I don't want to see them be ruined by this left-wing SJW snowflakery. It makes no sense. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can find me at RealJacobAiry. Find me on Instagram, real.jacob.airy. Find me on Facebook, author Jacob Airy. I also share some of my political articles that I write. Also, you can find me on my blog, www.jacobairy.blog. Look for me on thedailywire.com, and occasionally I make appearances on the Michael J. Knowles Show. It's a really awesome podcast. Be sure to check it out. Of course, head over to barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. Get your copy of my novel Cacophony. And you can, if you buy the ebook version, it's on sale. So definitely pick up that. If you like Studio Jake, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe, and share. And if you think of ways that I can improve, let me know in the comments below. I'm still new at this. I'm still learning. So please, I love to hear what you have to say. Now, like I said, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you next Saturday right here on Studio Jake.